artists, and welcome to day 87 of the Epic Journey. I'm Dalene FM, and today we're going to be talking about some really exciting stuff that's been happening here at the Dalene FM studios. I say studios because I now have two studios. As you know, last week I took quite a lot of time off because of the drawing workshop, but at the same time my husband and I were actually also building another studio. Now there's a very good reason for a second studio. My little studio here has become a little bit too small, so we've built a separate studio for myself and for my videography. So that is going to be the recording studio as such. So it's actually going to be really exciting. What that does also is it gives me the opportunity to fulfill a dream that I've had from long before I even started the Epic Journey, and that is to start teaching online classes. And it kind of is backed up by quite a lot of messages that have come through to me privately from the Epic Journey. Lots of people watching the Epic Journey have sent me messages saying, oh gosh, you know, wouldn't it be nice to be able to have art lessons with you, etc. And I've had some international people asking me the same question. So I've decided that I'm going to launch my very first online art lessons, and that is going to start in October. Now the registrations for them are not open yet. They will probably only open next week. I'm letting you know early because those of you that really want to get in on the action can drop me an email. Just private message me your email address. Don't send it to me in the comments because you don't want everybody to have your email address. Just pop it into a message to me and I will put you on the list, and as soon as the registrations are open I will send you an email for you to be able to go and register, so you guys can be the early bird bunch. It's going to be relatively limited in terms of the amount of people that I can have, because I don't think that I'll be able to have more than probably about 6 or 10 people on a call. It's going to take the form of a webinar. There will be a camera overhead so that I can demonstrate what I'm doing, as well as a camera in front of me so that I can talk to you as well. And then we're going to have webinar software that you guys will log into, and I'll be able to see what you're doing and you can see what I'm doing. I'm thinking they'll probably be in the region of about 2.5 hours long, half an hour or so for meet and greet and how's the kids and so on, and catching up on our week's events, and then another 2 hours of actual painting. Now it can take the form of, say, an hour or so of a demo and another hour or so of critiquing your work, or you showing me your work or asking questions. It can be a Q&A thing. So as we go along it will evolve. But there's also going to be two different types of lessons. I'm going to offer lessons in a group, so there will be a group of people on the webinar at the time. And then I'm also going to offer separate lessons where there's going to be private webinars. They will obviously have two different costs, and the costs involved will be on the launch page when I eventually set that up, or when I eventually make that live, should I say, next week sometime. So that's going to be a really exciting development to the Epic Journey, and I'm really looking forward to that, I must admit. But what I wanted to talk to you about today in 87 is something a little bit more important. I want to discuss with you the dangers of falling into the trap of formula painting. Now, if you go onto YouTube, you can find hundreds and hundreds of YouTube channels. I've never counted them, but I'm sure there's quite a lot of them. You can find a lot of YouTube channels teaching you how to be an artist in some form or another. But what I've discovered over my time, because I subscribe to quite a lot of them, but what I've discovered over my time is that quite a lot of those YouTube channels are teaching you how to paint by formula. And it's something that worries me somewhat, particularly from the point of view of a new artist, because there is this misconception that I've found even in my teaching, both in studio as well as on the Epic Journey. People ask questions that they seem to be expecting a magic solution, and what they're looking for is a quick fix answer. You know, how do you mix this color, or how do you paint faces, how do you paint trees, how do you paint rocks, whatever the case may be. But the truth of that is that there is no one quick fix solution. And if you fall into the trap of watching videos or subscribing to some sort of art teaching that teaches you how to paint something, how to use a particular brush, how to paint a particular feature, then you're going to fall into the trap of an artist telling you, or a teacher telling you, you get this brush, you mix that color, and you use this particular brush stroke, and it looks like a tree, or it looks like a whatever. And yes, it does, but what will also happen then is that all your artwork starts to look the same. Anybody who is subscribing to that particular lesson is going to produce artwork that looks exactly like what is being taught. This became really real to me when I saw a photograph taken. An art teacher was standing in a studio amongst a bunch of artists that he had been teaching over a few days, and they were all holding up their paintings, and it was a bit of a landscape, if I remember correctly. It was a bit of a waterfall and some trees and so on, and they all looked exactly the same. It was like cookie cutter painting methods. And my fear with that kind of teaching is that the self that artists should be exploring and pouring onto the canvas gets nullified. Now, I'm not saying that there's not a market for that kind of painting. I think for every kind of painting that an artist can produce, there is a market for. But you've got to ask yourself, what makes you an individual as an artist? And that is something that nobody can teach you. Nobody can teach you to delve deep down inside and to pour your own personality out onto your canvas. And if you fall into the trap of subscribing to teaching that is formula, following a rote set of rules and regulations, or following a rote pattern of behavior, you're going to be producing work that looks the same as what that artist is teaching, and will look the same as all the students that are learning from that particular artist. So I think we've got to view it in terms of, you go to the grocery store, you've got your trolley, and you're walking down the aisles, and you take off from the aisles what it is that you want to put into your trolley, and every person that walks out of that store will have a different set of products in their trolleys. And the same will go for any kind of teaching that you subject yourself to. Take from that teaching what works for you, but ignore what doesn't. And I think it's really important to be discerning about that, because if you follow a rule, or if you follow a prescribed way of doing things, then you're going to be taking all the products off the shelf and trying to implement all of them into your painting, and that is not necessarily going to work for you, and it's certainly not going to encourage you to be an individual artist. The way that I teach, I do not teach formula painting. I will help an artist to overcome a particular problem that they might be having by suggesting either a color or a particular brush maybe, or a particular way of using a brush. Yes, I'll do those things. I'm not going to say, this is how you paint a tree, and you use that brush and you use that color, and then you don't do this, that, whatever. I'm not going to do that, because I don't want to create duplicates of myself. My aim as an art teacher is to teach you to be the artist that you are, not to be some kind of cookie cutter version of me or of anybody else for that matter. I think if we look at all the great artists in history, it's artists, and even the great artists in current times, they are artists that have found their own signature to their work. Artists that have gone deep down inside themselves and put onto canvas what they feel is worth putting onto canvas, regardless of any preconceived notions, regardless of any ideas of what might be popular at the time, regardless of any kind of formula. Yes, there are certain rules that we have to follow, and I'm very strong on those. As you know, if you've watched any of my Epic Journey videos, you will know that I'm very strong on making sure that your paint chemistry is correct and so on. But those are for good reason. There's chemistry behind what we're doing that gives your painting the best chance of longevity, and ensures that your painting doesn't spoil, either short term or long term. Those lessons are designed to teach you the technical aspect of painting, and to teach you how to respect your work in the best way possible. But as far as the work itself is concerned, I'm relatively anti this formulaic type painting. And when artists come to me with a question of how to do something, I will certainly give tips and hints and advice, but I'm not going to give you a prescribed way of doing things. Art is not a prescribed thing. It's not something that you can follow a certain set of rules, or that you can follow a certain pattern of behavior and you end up producing something. It comes from inside of you, and you use those technical things that you've learned to complement what is going on inside of you, to pour out onto your canvas. So my message in this video, besides the fact that I wanted to tell you, I couldn't wait to tell you about the fact that I'm now going to start teaching on the internet, but besides all of that, I really want artists to start thinking for themselves, to start producing work that is a reflection of their own inner being. And it doesn't matter what that is. You know, if you're a still life artist, or a landscape artist, or a portrait artist like myself, a figurative artist, an abstract artist, whatever that may be, even if it appears to you on the surface that it might be relatively generic, over time, as you practice your craft, you will find more and more of yourself being put into your paintings, particularly if you're willing to explore that side of painting, if you're willing to explore the emotional or the psychological input that you put onto your canvas. Then your canvas will over time begin to take on more and more of an individual signature. That, however, doesn't happen very easily, particularly if you are being taught in a remote kind of fashion. So please, artists, I don't mean to insult any of the other teachers that are out there. Everybody's got something to offer, and by all means explore, all sorts of teaching, but be very careful about falling into the trap of becoming a formulaic painter. So artists, I think that's my little rant for day 87. I just wanted to encourage you to find your individuality, and don't be afraid to allow it to take a lot of time. I've been painting for years and years, and my signature is still developing. A personal signature is something that comes with time and effort and practice and reflection, self-reflection. So thank you very much for joining me on day 87, and don't forget that if you're keen on joining the online lessons, then please pop me a mail or pop me a private message with your email address, and I will certainly get into contact with you as soon as they launch. And I will see you tomorrow in day 88. I also just want to tell you that I'm going to be in Johannesburg for the day tomorrow. I'm flying out really early in the morning, and I'm only flying back late at night. So there's a pretty good chance that day 88 is going to be delayed. If it is, please forgive me. I know we've had a lot of delays over the last week or so because of the drawing workshop and because of building the new studio. Just one more delay. Please bear with me. So thank you once again for joining me for day 87, and keep your individuality flowing. Bye.
That's what you want to do.